Have you ever noticed specific individuals who seem almost like ghosts on social media? They don't upload photos or share stories. An entire year might pass by. Their profile remains stagnant and unchanged. You wonder if it's a real person or just a programmed bot. They exist in a separate dimension, detached from our noisy digital environment. What makes this truly fascinating? These aren't elderly people struggling with new technology, nor are they recluses hiding from society. They are often young and vibrant, living in bustling metropolitan areas. They hold steady jobs, socialize with peers, and carry the latest smartphones. Yet, in a society where everyone is screaming for a moment of attention, broadcasting everything from their first cup of coffee to their smallest passing thoughts, these people choose absolute silence. They intentionally avoid leaving any digital trail. So, what are they keeping hidden? Is there a more profound explanation? Perhaps intricate psychological patterns are at play that we haven't quite grasped. Today, let's pull back the curtain, analyze the internal world of these social media phantoms by looking at 4 primary psychological profiles. Category 1, the introvert. Guarding their personal life. There is a specific kind of person who prefers a very quiet existence. This isn't because their life is empty, but because they have no desire to open it up to a massive audience. To them, existence is comparable to a house with various rooms. Close companions are invited into the living area. Family members might enter the kitchen, but the bedroom remains off-limits to most. Social media feels like removing every door and inviting the public to stare inside. That level of exposure makes them deeply uneasy. You might be acquainted with someone like Ethan. In person, Ethan is charismatic, intelligent, and engaging. He is a hard worker, enjoys hiking or road trips, and loves intimate evening gatherings. However, Ethan's Instagram profile looks like a frozen time capsule. He has used the same profile image for years. He never posts about his birthday. He doesn't update his relationship status. And there are no photos from his recent travels. Many assume Ethan is being mysterious or overly humble. But the reality is that Ethan simply wants his life to belong to him alone. In truth, introverts do not avoid human connection. They are simply very selective about how they connect. They favor profound, private dialogues where they can be authentic without the pressure of a crowd watching them. When life is moved into the digital space, the boundary between intimate and public becomes thin. A single casual photo can set off a chain reaction of responses never intended. For an introvert, that lack of control causes stress. Introverted people typically find their energy depleted when they receive excessive attention. Every comment left on a post turns into a mini conversation. Every direct message is a social interaction that demands a reply. While an extrovert might find that stimulating, an introvert sees it as an energy drain. They require solitude to recover. But by posting a photo, they inadvertently open a floodgate of interactions they cannot regulate. Where was this taken? Who were you with? Why wasn't I invited? Are you two still dating? These inquiries might seem harmless, but they can feel like a violation of personal boundaries. Furthermore, introverts have a tendency toward deep reflection. and overanalysis. They visualize how every follower might perceive it. They worry about judgments and invented narratives. This heightened awareness makes them far more hesitant. This isn't a sign of weakness. Rather, it shows they understand the true weight of going public. In the modern age, from a psychological perspective, this is a way of establishing boundaries. These boundaries are essential for maintaining emotional security. By not sharing too much, you maintain authority over who gets to know what details. Introverts are frequently sensitive to outside intrusion. They dislike the idea of their personal choices being scrutinized or discussed by others. They don't want their private milestones to become fodder for a group chat or a public newsfeed. Therefore, staying silent is a method of maintaining autonomy. To them, privacy isn't about keeping secrets. It's about a fundamental right. It's the right to keep specific memories for themselves and their inner circle. It's the right to live without being forced to explain every move. It's the right to evolve and mature without broadcasting every stage of that growth to the public. As they get older, they become even more protective of their private world. They realize a family dinner doesn't require a photo to be valid. Some joyful experiences don't need digital documentation. Certain types of happiness feel more authentic when fewer people are aware of them. A romance that remains private can often be more resilient. A personal win that isn't announced online can feel more significant because its value isn't watered down by the opinions of strangers. They recognize that being constantly visible online is not the same as having a real connection. They opt for a smaller number of relationships that offer more depth. They prioritize meeting someone in person over having hundreds of digital exchanges. They choose tranquility over the hunt for attention. That silence provides them with a unique form of liberty, freedom from being observed, from meeting others' expectations, and from the trap of subconscious comparison. In a chaotic world of pings and endless updates, they decide to maintain a quiet space for themselves. To them, that stillness isn't an absence of life. It is a source of power. Category 2. Those who live in fear of being judged. Unlike the first group, these individuals don't avoid social media because they lack the desire to share. Rather, they simply don't have the courage to do so. Their phones are actually packed with beautiful images and significant memories. However, just as they are about to tap the post button, they begin to second-guess everything. You might know a girl like Emily. Emily captures incredible photos, whether it's a weekend brunch, a trip to the coast with her friends, or even a quiet afternoon with a book at a local cafe. She always finds the perfect lighting and composition. Yet, her social media profiles are nearly blank. Every time she considers posting, she spends an eternity editing, swapping filters, reframing the shot, and drafting a caption, only to delete the whole thing. She worries she'll sound like she's boasting, or that she'll come across as too serious, or that she'll be misinterpreted, or that someone will post a biting comment. Ultimately, she just exits the app. This isn't just a case of normal shyness. It is a deep-seated fear of social evaluation. That fear usually has roots in past experiences. Perhaps Emily was bullied for her appearance in the past. Maybe her peers ridiculed her. It's possible she once shared something and received a comment that haunted her for a week. The human brain is wired to remember negative social feedback with extreme intensity. From an evolutionary standpoint, being cast out by the tribe was a matter of life and death. Once a person has been publicly shamed or hurt, the brain does everything it can to avoid a repeat performance. Social media is essentially a digital version of a large crowd. Every post feels like walking onto a stage. Even if there isn't a literal spotlight on you, the sensation of being watched is incredibly potent. You are aware that hundreds of people could see your post. They might judge you. They might compare themselves to you. Or they might ignore you entirely. Even that silence can trigger a spiral of overthinking. Why are there so few likes? Was the timing wrong? Do people think I'm trying too hard? These doubts loop endlessly in their minds. Social media also facilitates a culture of constant comparison. You only have to scroll for a few moments to see someone getting a promotion, getting married, purchasing a home, touring Europe, or showing off a perfect physique. These curated highlights establish an unspoken benchmark. For someone sensitive to judgment, it is incredibly easy to feel as though they aren't good enough, successful enough, or interesting enough. When that internal feeling of inadequacy is already present, posting feels like entering a contest that you are destined to lose. When a person's sense of self-worth is overly dependent on external validation, every post becomes a high-stakes exam. If they get a lot of likes, they feel a temporary sense of relief. I am acceptable. If the engagement is poor, their mood crashes. I must be unattractive. Their emotional state rises and falls based on metrics. Their self-esteem becomes a slave to an algorithm, which is physically and mentally draining. To avoid being graded by the public, they simply stop playing the game. If they don't share anything, no one can judge them. If they don't post, their value for the day isn't determined by numbers. At a moderate level, this is a manifestation of social anxiety, the dread of being observed and analyzed. At a deeper level, it relates to a fragile sense of self. When the internal foundation isn't solid, the external world becomes the only way to measure value. And that measurement is constantly shifting. A single snide remark can stay with them for years. Even a sarcastic emoji can trigger hours of rumination. Therefore, withdrawing from the platform becomes a defensive strategy. It is important to realize that this silence doesn't stem from hatred or a feeling of superiority. At its core, there is a profound psychological conflict. Instinctively, they still want to connect. They want to be seen, understood, and part of a group. But the moment that desire starts to manifest, fear acts as a barrier. They are trapped in a painful contradiction. They want to be visible so they aren't forgotten, but they are terrified of being exposed. They want to belong, but they are afraid of being the target of criticism. When forced to choose between human connection and the instinct for self-preservation, they choose to retreat. Their silence isn't a comfortable preference. It is the most effective shield they have. Category 3. The people simply occupied with reality. This is a very pragmatic group. They don't spend much time debating online activity. They aren't interested in analyzing their personality type. They aren't trying to hide on purpose. They simply don't have the time or see the point. Their daily lives are overflowing with actual responsibilities. They deal with early mornings at the office, back-to-back meetings, tight deadlines, and endless emails. In the evenings, there is more to do. Cooking, tidying up, parenting, and catching up with family. Their weekends are spent running errands, paying bills, and organizing the week ahead. When they finally find a rare moment of peace, they want genuine relaxation. They want to watch a film, catch up on sleep, or just sit quietly and decompress. They have no interest in editing images, brainstorming clever captions, or monitoring notifications from dozens of acquaintances. You might know someone like Michael. Michael earned a promotion after years of dedication, but you only found out during a casual chat. He took his family on a vacation, but no pictures ever appeared online. He finished a major professional certification, yet his LinkedIn profile remained untouched. This wasn't because he was being secretive. It was because his focus is on the action, rather than the announcement. To him, an achievement is the reward for hard work, not fodder for a status update. These individuals live in a very grounded, physical rhythm. They don't view social media as a stage, but rather as a minor utility. They might check the news while standing in a queue, or watch a few stories before bed. But crafting an online persona is not on their list of priorities. For them, every activity must serve a clear function. If posting doesn't provide a specific benefit, they won't waste their energy on it. Psychologically, this is a matter of how resources are allocated. The human brain has a finite amount of energy and attention. Every single day, we have to make hundreds of minor choices. When your primary objectives are rooted in the real world, such as advancing your career, raising a family, or improving your physical health, activities that don't help reach those goals naturally fall to the bottom of the list. In this context, social media becomes a secondary concern. It's not that it's bad, it's just not important. Furthermore, many people in this category value deep focus. When they are working, they are fully engaged. When they are resting, they are truly relaxing. When they are at dinner with their family, they are mentally present at the table. Interestingly, many in this group are indifferent to what others think of their online activity level. They don't feel any social pressure to keep a curated image up to date. If someone asks, "Why haven't you been active lately?" they might just shrug and say, "I've just been busy." It sounds like a simple answer, but it reflects a very solid value system. Real life is more important than an online presence. They also don't link their self-worth to how visible they are. Success doesn't have to be public to be valid. Happiness doesn't have to be shared to be meaningful. While they might appreciate being recognized, they don't go out of their way to seek it through social media posts. Their satisfaction comes from the process itself. A completed project, a great workout, or a meaningful talk with a loved one. For this group, social media is like a small side room in the house of their life. They might go in there when they need to, but they don't live there. Their attention is on things that can be felt, built, and maintained in the physical world. Because they are so busy actually living their lives, they don't feel the need to prove it to anyone else. To them, life isn't content. It is a reality that unfolds every day, complete and whole, without needing an audience. Category 4. The ones who have no need for external validation. This group possesses the strongest internal foundation. They don't avoid social media out of fear. And it's not just because they are busy. They don't post because they simply don't feel the need to. They don't feel an urge to tell the world. They are doing well, improving themselves, or feeling joyful. For these individuals, those experiences are fulfilling enough on their own. In psychology, we distinguish between two types of drive: intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is fueled by outside rewards, like praise, status, or a good reputation. Intrinsic motivation comes from a sense of inner fulfillment, from knowing you are meeting your own personal standards. Social media is primarily built on extrinsic motivation. Every like provides a tiny hit of dopamine. Every comment serves as social proof. Every share reinforces the idea that you are being noticed. Many people get caught in this feedback loop without even realizing it. They post, they wait for a reaction. They get attention, and then they do it all over again. However, this fourth group is less affected by these social rewards. They don't need a stranger to tell them they are great in order to believe it. They don't need a crowd to witness their milestones to feel a sense of pride. When they hit a target, they feel that success internally. When they overcome a hurdle, they acknowledge it privately. Their sense of validation is generated from within, not from a glowing screen. If they go to the gym, they do it for their own health and discipline. They don't feel the need to share a progress photo to prove they are working hard. If they pick up a new skill, they do it for personal growth, not to add a new bullet point to their social media bio. If they achieve something at work, they immediately look toward the next challenge. Instead of writing a lengthy post about their journey, they maintain a very clear distinction between an experience and the image of that experience. They understand that the true value of something is not in the price, but in the joy, satisfaction, or results it brings. Doesn't increase just because more people see it. This trait is often linked to a very robust sense of identity. When a person knows exactly who they are and what they want, they are less reliant on feedback from others to define themselves. They don't need social media to validate their existence. They don't need attention to feel like they matter. Their self-esteem isn't tied to how many people follow them. There is a very subtle but important distinction here. They don't necessarily hate recognition, but they don't go looking for it. If someone offers a compliment, they are gracious and say thank you. If someone praises them, they are happy, but they don't feel like something is missing. If the praise never comes, they don't feel any internal pressure to keep posting just to remain relevant. They aren't afraid of being forgotten by the digital world. In a society where attention is treated like a form of currency, choosing not to participate in that economy is a bold choice. This group sees exactly how the social media machine works. They understand the algorithms reward constant exposure. They know much online content is optimized for reaction. It aims to get a reaction rather than show the whole truth. Because of this, they never mistake being visible for being valuable. Another quality is their capacity for delayed gratification. They don't need the immediate hit of pleasure. That comes from notifications or engagement. They are willing to wait for slower, more meaningful rewards, like long-term self-improvement and mental peace, and authentic, deep relationships. These types of rewards are quiet, but much more durable. Their independence from public approval gives them deep confidence. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't need to brag, doesn't need to prove its worth, and doesn't require constant reassurance from others. They can be in a room without being the center of attention and still feel completely secure. They can accomplish something massive without telling a soul. For this group, social media is just a tool, not a yardstick for their value as a human being. They might use it when it's functional, but they never allow it to define who they are. In an age where many seek meaning through others' eyes, the ability to live a fulfilling life without an audience is a hallmark of true inner strength. Turning away from the endless feed is not an act of hiding, but a profound return to your genuine self. It is the quiet choice to let your actual everyday experiences matter more than your curated digital footprint. You truly do not owe the world a continuous broadcast of your private victories and personal growing pains. It is completely okay to build a breathtaking reality that absolutely no one else ever gets to witness. What specific parts of your own journey are you still filtering for an audience instead of simply living? If this resonated with you, I warmly invite you to share one beautiful offline moment in the comments below. An unseen life is still a life deeply worth living.